Hello, everyone. Welcome to This Is Why We Stand. My name is Joe Archino, and I was inspired to make this series because of the stance that many have taken not to stand and honor the American flag. And I always start off by talking about this, but if there's anything that I hope to accomplish in this series, it's to prove and show the people who disrespect the flag why that flag means so much. And it's the people who make the flag so much, the people who have sacrificed everything for each and every one of us. And one of those people who we will be discussing today is Robert L. Howard. And Robert L. Howard might not be a household name like many of the people we discuss on this series, but that's the point of this series. It's to show you that it's the common man, it's the common person with the common last name who gives everything for this country and who really are the representation of this country and everything that we mean and we stand for. But Robert L. Howard, up until his death just in 2009, was the most decorated Medal of Honor recipient in our nation's history. And he is the only person ever to be put in for 3 Medal of Honor citations. Now, you can only win the Medal of Honor once. So he has his 1 Medal of Honor, but he was put in for the Medal of Honor citation 3 times, and I think just by the mere nomination 3 times alone, that shows you how many good things he was able to accomplish and how many heroic actions he took part in. But I think to me, the thing that makes it even more impressive is all 3 of these nominations were within a 13-month period. This is an individual who gave 36 years of service to the United States military. He joined the U.S. Army when he was 17 years old. He served 5 tours in Vietnam. He served 54 months of combat duty and was wounded 14 times in those 54 months. I mean, he has 8 Purple Hearts. You name it, he's got a medal for. And to me, it's just one of those things where, again, why don't we all know the name Robert L. Howard? And I think a big part of it is he was, of course, one of the people who fought in the Vietnam War. And to me, one of the greatest travesties of this country's history is the disrespect that the veterans who fought in the Vietnam War earned. And I think there are stark contrasts between the political and just you name it, social, political, economic turmoil of that era in American history and the one we're going through right now. I really think that the periods are so similar with the anti-war movement then, and then you have the disharmony, this disunity, everyone upset with the political election, how it turned out. But I think more than anything, there's nothing sadder than when a country turns on its soldiers. And in the Vietnam War and after it, the media, you name it, you put the blame on whoever you want to. Our country did not treat our veterans returning from home with respect. And to me, that is one of the saddest things of all. And I even read things about his ceremony where there was barely even any media attention at his ceremony for his Medal of Honor citation because the media believed that if they did cover it to a full extent and they made a name like that a big household one and they told his story, that would give support for the war movement, and that's not something that they had on their agenda. And that is just wrong. And that's why today, just coming off Veterans Day being a few days ago, this being a new week and a new start of this series, that's why, to me, Robert L. Howard needs to be discussed here and deserves to be discussed because he might not have gotten the recognition he deserved back then, but you better be sure that people like me are going to make sure that his name, it lasts forever. Our first duty is to remember, and I will never forget Robert L. Howard and the contributions that he made to our country. But the actual Medal of Honor itself is an award that has a meaning that goes beyond words. And through this series, we've talked about many people who've accomplished a tremendous amount and have done, you marvel at why they won that award. Last week it was Desmond Dawes. The week before that it was Dirk Vlug. This week we talk about Robert L. Howard. And if there's a common theme in all of the Medal of Honor citations and all the Medal of Honor recipients that we talk about, you see it's selflessness. It's people putting themselves in harm's way so that others might live. And like everyone we have discussed, Robert L. Howard is no different. Now, I generally give you the highlights from the Medal of Honor citation just to give you a good understanding. But again, like I always do, I recommend that you go and you read the full citation because every word means a tremendous amount, because what these people do is outside the realm of normalcy. It just goes beyond what sometimes we even think is humanly possible. But when you are in situations like these people are and you believe in what you are doing, you are capable of doing tremendous things. But Howard was part of basically a rescue operation. The U.S. chain of command received word that there was a soldier in enemy hands, and they were going to go out there and they were going to try to rescue him. Well, as soon as they hit the ground, they were getting shot up. They were getting really run around and run over by enemy forces. And Howard's platoon leader was wounded right away. Howard got wounded right after that. And Howard really wasn't even able to stand on his own 2 feet after he got wounded. His platoon leader was in even worse shape, but without hesitation, Howard started to drag his platoon leader to safer ground, and he did this basically while trying to use any medical experience that he had. And Howard, again, like I've said, was a Green Beret, so all Green Berets have a degree of medical training because these are some of the most advanced soldiers that we have. And, most soldiers might not have that combat role if they're not a medic, but Special Forces operators, they do have that capacity, unlike some maybe common soldiers. But Howard basically did this, fell back. The area was it was so difficult to determine and distinguish friend from foe, where it was just the nature of the Vietnam War and the way it was fought. The North Vietnamese, the Viet Cong, wanted to disrupt, disorient, confuse the American soldiers, and the tactics employed by both could not have been more different. The U.S. more had a structural fighting ability to themselves, where on the other hand, the NVA and the Viet Cong, they were all about using their guerrilla warfare, using tactics to disrupt that style of fighting. And basically, the two of them, when they clashed, it made things very difficult for the American soldiers. And in this scenario, what Howard was basically able to do was just consistently trying to help everyone that he could, putting his life in harm's way time and time again. One of the things that sticks out to me the most was when one of his ammunition pouches on the lieutenant's belt detonated with several magazines of ammunition. Things like that are just amazing. We've talked about already, this is a guy who earned 8 Purple Hearts. He has every award there is, and in this situation, you need to take into account that he's injured this whole time, but that did not get in the way of him performing his duty. And basically, for 3.5 hours, Howard and a small force, with some help from air power, was able to repel and hold on for this assault. And that right there is just amazing. When the highest ranking officer on the field goes down right away, well, that usually spells trouble, but Howard was one of those guys who was able to step in right away. He brought him to cover, even though he was hobbled. He was not even able to stand on his own 2 feet. He lost his weapon in the very first instances of this fight, and then finally, after the 3.5 hours, the helicopters were able to land on the ground, and Howard was the last person on those helicopters. He let everyone else get on those helicopters before he did. And I think that speaks to who Robert L. Howard is. Again, this is someone who gave 36 years of service to the United States military. He served 5 tours in Vietnam. He served 54 months in active duty. Incredible feats, and this is why he was the most decorated Medal of Honor recipient up until his death in 2009. And I think you look at him as the model of someone, and the model of the Vietnam veteran who just didn't get the respect that they deserved. And that's why, to me, the Vietnam veterans just have an extra special place in my heart, because, again, these are people who did not get the respect they deserved coming home. I don't think we've experienced anything like this in our lifetime, where people coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. But in Vietnam, you had protesters who were verbally harassing people coming home from the war, people who were assaulting veterans coming back from the war. And to me one of the most sad and disappointing and darkest times in American history because of that. Because our veterans are the people who give us everything. They don't decide policy. They don't dictate foreign affairs. They go where they are told because they are defending the liberties and the basic freedoms of all of us back home. And that's exactly what people like Robert L. Howard were doing over there. But I implore you to look more into this incredible man. You could type his name into YouTube. There's a lot of documentaries on him up there. You could type it in quickly in Google, read his whole Medal of Honor citation. He is someone who just defies logic like so many of these people do, but he gave everything for his country. And that's why I do this series. This is why we stand, to honor those people, to give them the respect that they deserve, because the first duty is to remember